So if I repeat certain things like we're here in Detroit, Michigan, it's just for the viewers that are not too familiar.
For sure. No. All good. All good. Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself to the people.
Cool. Well, my name is Tre Gray. All my friends call me Trey, so feel free to call me Trey. But I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. And then I went to school at Ohio State, so I went over to Columbus, Ohio, the Ohio State. And then from there, I kind of, just navigated my own kind of like professional career and athletic career. So I went to Ohio State on a track scholarship originally. But then kind of, just going through life and then, starting to realize what I wanted to do once my track career was sort of over. I knew I wanted to be, centered around like sports, but on the business side of things. So from that perspective, I kind of started navigating all my professional experience to be sports related. So I interned like USA Track and Field, and then Ohio State Athletic Department and IMG, and then eventually got my internship at ESPN, thanks to a professional development program that I was a part of called MLT. And then from there, I had a great internship, and then decided to come back full time after I graduated in 2017. So now I live in New York City, and I work in our sports marketing department, specifically on the NBA. But been able to touch a number of things since I've been there for 3 years now. Been able to touch a number of different properties. So got to work on ESPN Plus and ESPN app and fantasy sports, all these sorts of like different things. And even got to, yeah, for sure. And it even got to like work on the ESPN brand, and studio shows, and the film The Last Dance, the early stages of that. And then eventually got over to our sports marketing group, and then NBA, MLB, XFL, pretty much everything that we kind of have to offer outside of like college football and NFL. So I've been able to have my hands on a lot of different things, meet a lot of great people, internally and externally. So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Excellent. Now, when you said Indianapolis, Indiana, and then Ohio State, I was thinking of two guys that took the path from Indianapolis to Ohio State. Being a former student athlete myself, I'm thinking of Mike Conley Jr. and Greg Oden.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm from the far east side of Indianapolis, which is predominantly Lawrence Township. Greg Oden and Mike Conley, they went to Lawrence North, and I went to Lawrence Central. So Lawrence Central was the newer high school of the two, and during my era of high school, we were like the golden era for Lawrence sports. So we won state championship in football, state championships in track, men and women. So we kind of got to dominate a little bit of everything, and a lot of people, a lot of successful athletes and stuff came just from Lawrence in general, but Indianapolis as well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us, Trey, what after track, after you were done with track,
mm-hmm.
what motivated or inspires you to kind of still get involved, like make it a career, like behind the scenes, like not necessarily like on the track, but like behind the scenes? What motivated you to do that?
Yeah, I think it was mainly a matter of just really wanting to have something kind of like just lined up and planned. Just because like I knew a lot of friends, and just like not only on the track team, but just any sport. Because being an athlete yourself, you get to know all the athletes just throughout the school. So I knew football players, basketball players, all sorts of things. And then you kind of like look at the upperclassmen a little bit. And some of them have professional aspirations, some don't. And then there's some that like they have no idea what they kind of want to do once their kind of like athletic career is over. And I didn't really want to be in that position. So that was kind of like part of the motivation around it. And then also my career, it was a little different where I got to navigate it a little differently. And then even, every kind of career has its, ups and downs. And it was more so during the times where, I was rehabbing or from an injury or something like that, where I kind of like thought about like, okay, like now that I can't run, like it's not really an option. What can I be doing with my time, sort of thing. So from that perspective, that's when I really started to think about what I wanted to do. And then I was also around the times where Maverick Carter and Rich Paul and other people who are on the business side of sports really started to like blow up. So just seeing them and kind of like admiring them and what they were doing, that's kind of like what I wanted to do as well. And so, I've kind of navigated it all where it's like, all right, do I want to be a sports agent? Do I want to be, a marketing executive? Do I want to work at Nike? Do I want to work here, X, Y, and Z? So that's kind of, that was mainly the motivation. Just I didn't want to be in a position where, I had to figure it out last minute, pretty much.
Okay. Now, Tre, you have a quiet confidence about yourself, and that's smooth, man. Growing up in Detroit, and Detroit is like any other Midwest city, whether it's Indianapolis, Detroit, Chicago, where
for sure,
in the inner city, there's a feeling of, can I do it? Can I make it?
Yeah.
And what gave you the confidence to just be like, okay, I got these options. I got option A, option B, option C. I'm gonna just go for it. What gave you that confidence that you can do it, that you can visualize?
The confidence for sure. I mean, it comes from just my family in general. Especially like my mom. I grew up in kind of like in a single parent household. So she motivated me a lot. And seeing her like overcome the things that, she kind of went through, navigating as being a young teenage mom and different things like that. And anything, anytime the odds are kind of like stacked against her, she always figured it out. So that was like my motivation from an early age, just from day one. And then outside of that, it's just kind of like the environment, you kind of grow up in and the people you surround yourself with. So, even my friends all motivated me as well. Outside of obviously, all the friends that were in the same grade as me, majority of my friends were always older than me. And I think I was able to hang out with, my older friends because I had kind of like a little more mature demeanor, or, I could kind of like just carry myself kind of well, but, they taught me a lot. And even the aspects of, like you said, navigating the inner city. Anytime that I got anywhere outside of Indianapolis or even outside of the East Side, it was like, all right, this is a cake. This is easy. Like, if I can see everything, if I can see everything I've seen or be able to do the things I did here, I can definitely do it in Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio State, or I can do it in New York City. So, it was a lot of very varying factors, but I think those are the big ones for sure. This isn't the toughest thing I ever had to get through, and I've done it before, so I can definitely do it now.
Amen. Now, Tre, when I was, 14, 15 years old, 8th to 9th grade, social media wasn't quite at this level where, a kid from the ghetto can see a Tre on a Heavy Brand podcast and be like, okay, he came from such and such and he made it. Why don't I give it a shot? So, I'm real blessed to have people like you come on this podcast and share stories like that, man.
Sure, no, thank you. And like you said, like it's always all full circle. It's one of those things where, even if it isn't social media, I was blessed and able to see, Black men in successful positions, and, seeing them have, the nice car, the nice house, or the nice family, or whatever the case may be. So that was also like a motivating factor for me, and I know it did wonders for my life, and a lot of my peers too. So just being able to have that positive influence or something to like, oh, I want to be like him, I want to drive what he drives, and and especially if you can get it all through a legal way. So having that kind of like thing to like admire and look up to and just connect with was very fortunate for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, just making it, not everybody gets to work at ESPN, So how did it feel when you got a job offer from ESPN? Like, what kind of thoughts like went in your mind at the time?
Yeah, I always try to stay humble. So I tried to like not let it get to me too much. But I mean, I think I was not that I was expecting it, but it did. It was sense of gratification just because of the fact of I knew I went into the internship wanting to have a full-time offer by the time that I had graduated school. Just from that, like I wanted to make sure I made the right connections, made genuine connections, stayed in contact with people, left good impressions, even if I only talked to them one time. So leaving the internship and leaving New York at the time, I felt good about doing all those things, regardless if I came back to New York or not. Because at first, like I had no kind of desire to live in New York at the time. It was like like I miss my car. Everything out here is expensive.
Yes.
All those sorts of different things. It was like this 10 weeks was great, but I don't really see myself doing this for 3 years like I've been doing now. But once it kind of you weigh all the pros and cons of the different offers you have, or you start to line up what makes the most sense for you. All signs pointing back to New York. So even from that aspect of it, once I actually got the offer, it was very it was very satisfying. I felt accomplished. But I always, like I said, always try to humble myself. It's more so my friends and stuff. They like, bro, you work at ESPN, like they try to like make it make sense for me. And it's like, yeah, I guess this is kind of cool. Not everybody can say they do this or do that. And then, but also I have a number of friends who have great careers as well, who have been able to get themselves in successful places. So even that helps me out too. But it was definitely satisfying. I was proud of myself. It's one of those things where it's like when you sit back and you're like, okay, I'm only 25, 26 years old. I work at ESPN. I live in New York, and you kind of, not to compare yourself to others, but when you think about where you could be, and then what you have seen happen to other people and different things like that, it's you just feel blessed. So yeah.
Yeah. And I come from an era where, a lot of great athletes, they didn't reach that end goal of going pro, and for one reason or another, and it really destroyed them mentally, emotionally, and some of them are in very bad places right now. So,
for sure.
It's great to see that we can make it, quote unquote, make it without necessarily, being on TV, getting paid, $2 million or $10 million a year. There's other ways to make it. The world is so large, so many different fields.
For sure.
Now, this next question is more in line with one of my guests that really stood out. His name is Noah Sebit. I've seen him on YouTube. There's this basketball academy in East Africa called the Dankan Academy. And they feature different ball players. Most of them are like refugees, originally like from South Sudan. And there was a young kid out there, really talented at basketball, but he wanted to be more than just an athlete. So, I want to kind of get him involved in like mentorships. Somewhere like along the line, do you feel like you'd be interested in maybe mentoring, even long distance virtually, mentoring?
No, yeah, for sure, yeah, without a question. I mean, that's, like I said, that's one of the things that kind of helped me stay on the right path and the right track. And it's always one of those things, never forget those, behind you. And then it's also it's one of those things where one of the things that I always kind of like believed in is, be willing to help and then also be willing to be helped. So it's like, always making those connections, even when you do get one mentor, asking that mentor, like, okay, who's somebody else I should connect with or talk to? Just because like, I don't know all the answers. They may not know all the answers, and the next person may not know all the answers, but they, you get one more dose of information from somebody else. Sure. Like I said, it's always full circle for me. So yeah, I'm more than happy and willing to mentor, talk to, connect with anybody. Because like I said, I wouldn't be where I am without my own mentors from back at home or in college or even now out here in New York.
Beautiful. Now, being a person of color and just being a young individual, period. how, like, you ever get uncomfortable sometimes if you're in that room, that meeting room, that boardroom, and there's not that many people that look like you? What kind of thoughts go in your head sometimes?
Yeah, nah. I think it was one of those things that I was able to identify early on, and even when I was interning. But like at ESPN, um, like I said, you're right. It's not a lot, especially not in the marketing department. There is, we have people, executives in, sales or in production, that run studio shows and different things like that. But as far as like in our actual marketing department, my VP is a Black man. But it's only, so many of us. But it was one of those things where I always looked at it as a pro and a con, because obviously, you're going to stick out, and they'll want your opinion and your voice to be heard. But sometimes you can look at it two ways, where it's like, all right, you're only asking me because I'm the Black person in the room, or whatever the case may be. Or you can look at it as like, no, I need to speak up. I need to share my opinion, share my voice, because if not, and this does, get out the door, or my people aren't represented authentically, it's also a reflection of myself. And somebody else may never know that, but like internally, like within myself, like I'll know for a fact, like I played a part in that, and I kind of like let that slide just because I didn't want to speak up, or because I was intimidated, or whatever the case may be. So no, it was definitely, it's kind of intimidating at first, but then it's also one of those things that you can turn a con into a pro, where it's like, no, like, this is how you get yourself, not only noticed in the recognition, but people start to respect you more, and especially the more and more you can share your thoughts and your ideas and opinions, because a lot of things, you have valuable things to say, and
Yes.
you'd be surprised by how much someone may not actually know, or the generational gap, or the racial gap, and like somebody might not be completely aware how something may come off offensive, or how something might upset someone, or whatever the case, how it can be looked at in a different lens, just because if you go your whole life and you only have kind of like this one like ideology on something, or viewpoint on something, you never hear it from a different perspective, or somebody else from a different background, or other side of the world, country, or even kind of like an income perspective.
Now, as far as like your regular, your regular day in the life, what does a day in the life of Tre Gray look like from 7 a.m. or even earlier to like 4 or 5 p.m.?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different now, during the whole pandemic situation.
Yeah.
So I mean, now my days is I'm pretty much at home most of the time. I try to get out as much as possible to hang out with friends, or just get some fresh air, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I guess I can answer it two ways. But in a normal day, in normal life, I get up probably around like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then that's when, I try to either grab some food, just get dressed and everything, and then go get on the train. Have like a 45-minute commute, or whatever it is, to the office. And then, it's a pretty typical work day, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever the case may be, depending on what time of the year it is and how busy you are work-wise. And then from there, I try to go to the gym. I listen to music a lot, podcasts, and even, just different things. Try to read books from time to time. I don't read them as much as I used to. I used to read them like all the time. And then, yeah, outside of that, watching movies, listening to music, hanging out with friends, anything that, just kind of, I can separate my professional life and personal life, and just kind of unwind, sit back and relax a little bit, and then just really make the best of everything. But like during the pandemic, it's like, all right, wake up, go from my room to the living room, work, sit on Zoom calls and different things like that. And then, force myself to go outside, because especially at the height of it, when people were scared to go out, it was like, I'd spend 3-4 days just sitting in my apartment, and thankfully I have a roommate, so I had somebody to talk to. But it was it was a lot of FaceTime calls and a lot of like just different things where it's like, I just need to talk to somebody, some sort of social interaction. Yeah, it's a lot different now. But I say during the pandemic, I was working out a lot more again, reading a lot more again. And then just finding different ways to just stay connected with friends and family and good stuff like that.
Okay. Well, we hope you add Heavy Brand Podcast to your playlist to podcast.
For sure.
It's definitely out of the norm. It's definitely a different podcast from podcast. Now, being a former track star, do you still get busy as far as, conditioning, burpees, running in place and all that?
Not nearly as much as I used to. I'm definitely out of my prime, out of my peak. But I mean, if I had to, or when I do need to run, like I can still showcase it. To show that it wasn't a fluke or it's not a fluke. But yeah, I mean, I'm more so just
quick fibers, huh?
Exactly. I'm more so now just kind of like work out just to kind of like stay in shape and not let it get too far away from me, before it's too late when I'm way older. But yeah, I mean, it comes and goes. And like as far as like, I've put so many miles on my legs already where, sometimes I'll just take like a break especially from running. I'll just take a break. And then in other times of the year when it's nice out, you're like, no, I'm just going to run. I might go on like a 3-mile jog, 5-mile run or something like that. And then just kind of go from there. So it comes and goes.
Okay. We got 2 more points. So the first point that I wanted to cover, if they were putting together, a movie, a movie on Tre Gray, straight out of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
What actor would play you and why?
I have 2. One for sure is Derek Luke.
Okay. Anton Fisher guy. Yep.
Yeah. Derek Luke, just because, very good actor. But even outside of that, I actually had the opportunity to meet him. When I don't even remember what age, but we had this thing called Indiana Black Expo. Where a lot of celebrities, it's like it has a celebrity basketball game. It's like a bunch of vendors and all these different things. It's just like, a good time of the year for everyone and everyone Black in Indiana just come to Indianapolis and kind of just enjoy each other's presence. And just kind of grew up all the time just going to that every year. It's something I always look forward to. But I was actually able to meet Derek Luke at one of the events there. Got to talk to him for a minute. And he kind of just stopped and froze, and he was like, I know I don't know you, and he was like, I can see great things, and I just want to speak blessings into your life, and actually like touch me and everything, like touch my heart, everything, all that good stuff, and really just kind of like it was like a frozen moment in time. So I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him since then or anything like that, but definitely him. But yeah, he's been like Antoine Fisher is one of my favorite movies, very relatable. And then Biker Boys was also another one of my favorite movies. So he's just been in a lot of movies where I really respect his acting talents. And then the other one I say is Omar Epps. For similar reasons. Never met him in person, but respect a lot of his work.
Yes. And
it's not rare where somebody will say like, oh, you kind of like look like him, or something like that. So I think, for all intents and purposes, and that's another person that I would look to play me. But
it's also, you're in New York, and he's a native New Yorker. So.
Exactly. So I mean, like you had the movies like Juice, and they're just classics. You just have to respect them. But as far as it's a lot of like up and coming actors as well that I wouldn't mind, just playing me. But yeah. So.
And final piece, for the viewers now. What's the most memorable project you've worked on? I remember you saying you worked on a Michael Jordan documentary. You actually had Craig Hodges on this podcast before the documentary came out. What is the most memorable project that you've ever worked on?
For me, I say ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus, because at the time it was the first direct-to-consumer like sports platform like ever made. So working on the marketing campaigns and all the different things throughout that process, it helped me like learn the business really fast, and like all the amount of deliverables and the executive exposure that it had and the eyeballs and all that good stuff. It was definitely one of the ones where it was career changing. And it was one where I can always have my name kind of attached to it and can speak to it. And even now, like, and I think it goes back to kind of like my ideology around, if I can do this, then I can definitely do that. Just because with ESPN Plus, again, like I said, it was so many eyeballs on it, so much work that had to be done, and so much planning and navigating through it all. Where any kind of project that I get now, like, yes, it's still a lot of work, and it can be kind of like intimidating, or like, oh, I'm about to be super busy. But if I really think about it and compare it to ESPN Plus, it probably falls just a little bit short as far as how challenging it may have been at the time. So that's ESPN Plus for sure. And then even outside of that, the other side of it, kind of seeing the success and hitting 1 million subscribers in record time, and 2 million subscribers, and then it just kind of climbed, and it was one of the ones that like it really impacted the business, like especially for like as everything is based off of TV viewership. And, it's like everybody's cutting cable and all these different things. Seeing the success of our direct-to-consumer platform really take off and being a part of that is definitely my favorite. And then outside of that one, though, I do have one more for sure. And this is probably one of the most recent ones. Was during all the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all the different things of that, and companies sending out social justice messages and making these different commitments and stuff like that. Working on the NBA, I had the luxury of you have the luxury of also tying your branding and marketing to match what the players in the league that you were marketing are doing. So that was during the time where all the players were doing protests and different things like that. So I got to actually lead our social justice message from a creative perspective. And it was called Never Just a Game. And we showed all the players who were out in the streets protesting, and got to work with Maria Taylor and Jalen Rose to really tell and the whole entire NBA Countdown crew and the production teams at ESPN to really tell the story of ESPN is with you, especially NBA on ESPN in the marketing department. So being able to strategize and communicate that to executives, and releasing it on Juneteenth, and all of that was like very strategic and intentional, and getting to lead that was something where I felt like it was important. Again, not having a lot of Black voices within the department, being able to actually be a Black man and then be able to lead that process was definitely heartwarming, fulfilling. And it felt like, if you have these great careers, these great jobs, these great platforms, being able to use your voice and articulate that out to the world was important. Just because a lot of companies, they'll send out the wrong message, or they won't have a message at all. So being able to take it from being like our NBA on ESPN, kind of platform, and then making it like the ESPN statement as a whole, and just seeing the evolution of that was great.
Now, to conclude this episode, what advice would Tre Gray have for our youth, our youth of color that are, on the fence about continuing their education? They're having doubts about the future outlook. They're thinking about just giving up on school altogether.
Yeah. Well, one is people believe in people who believe in themselves. So if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So I'd say first it starts off as like an internal reflection of you, and also never let someone make you feel like you don't belong somewhere, regardless of how you got there, or what it took to get there. What the part that matters is once you're actually there and what you do with the opportunity. So if it takes you 5 years and decide to go back to school, or 10 years to get back to school, at the end of the day, everybody, gets that same degree. It doesn't tell you, when you came, when you went, how you got there. So, people can write a book about their life and you still wouldn't understand their full story. So never let someone, make you feel like you don't belong somewhere. So I say, just continue to believe in yourself, and then also, be your own biggest advocate. So be able to have those conversations and articulate your value, and why something is important to you, and why you should be, getting that job or going back to school or getting that promotion, whatever the case may be, be able to really understand and do all of that. But I mean, at the beginning of the day, it all starts with you. It all ties back to you. So just kind of believe in yourself, pray about it, reflect on it, and then just kind of go from there, and see what unfolds.
All right. Tre Gray, thank you so much for blessing Heavy Brand Podcast with your presence and words of wisdom, man, and continual blessings on your end, my friend.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Have a good one.
What's up?